Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Shemitah. Well, starting on Rosh Hashanah of this year, Israelis, and in a different kind of a way, traditional Jews all across the globe, have been observing the culmination of a 7-year agricultural cycle with something called Shemitah. The word means release, and it reflects a mitzvah that is found in the book of Exodus, that after working the actual land of Israel for 6 years, we are required to let that land lie fallow in the 7th year. Just like, for example, the 7th day of the week is uniquely observed, so too the 7th year of this cycle is uniquely observed. We now are in that 7th year of the cycle. This is a Shemitah year. During Shemitah, the land should not be worked, nor its produce sold. Sowing, pruning, harvesting, forbidden. All other kinds of agricultural work like digging, removing stones, fertilizing, applying pesticides, and so forth, all that's forbidden unless that work actually is needed to prevent permanent damage to the land itself. Now, you can mow your Israeli lawn during Shemitah, but you can't weed. And obviously, not to worry, provisions are set aside so that in some way food is always available for everyone during that year. Everyone, my friends, not just the land, needs some time to refresh, to happily absorb nutrients without being expected to produce another goodly harvest. So the next 3 weeks, until November 20th, will be a Shemitah period for our very own Facebook and YouTube Torah study. Risa and I are about to fulfill our dream of being able to make a too long delayed visit to Israel, to meet again with our friends and family, to breathe the air and to walk the streets of Eretz HaKodesh. For 3 weeks we will therefore let our weekly study lie fallow. And if we are granted a full measure of blessings for both our going and our coming, we will all be back together again on November 20th. Okay, our Sedra is Vayera, Genesis 18:1 and following. What's not to love about Genesis and its wonderful stories? Abraham has 3 guests. The guests, representatives of God, promise that Abraham and Sarah will have a son. Sarah, laughs in disbelief. Vatitzchak Sarah, she laughed, and out of that comes the name of Isaac. That's how he gets his name. Then God reveals to Abraham the divine intention to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of what the rabbis assumed to have been their profound immorality. And Abraham stands up to God, arguing that a just God would never destroy the righteous along with the wicked. This brazen demand for a just world has never stopped resonating throughout Western society. There's so much more. There is the jealousy between Ishmael and Isaac, and then, of course, the Akedah, the attempted sacrifice of Isaac, another unforgettable thread in the tapestry of Jewish history. Ishmael and Isaac. So much moral ambiguity. Shouldn't the firstborn son be automatically granted the birthright? Well, not here, and not later in the story of Jacob and Esau, and not in the story of Jacob's 12 sons, and not when Moses rises higher than his siblings Aaron and Miriam. And Sarah, wife of Abraham, mother of Isaac, she was Abraham's closest confidant. He listened to her. He obviously cared very deeply for her. When she offered her slave Hagar to Abraham as a substitute, Abraham listened. He took her. And when Sarah, trembling with regret and jealousy over what she had done, demands that Hagar and now her son Ishmael be banished to a probable death in the wilderness, again, Abraham acquiesced. There is no sturdy moral order in the book of Genesis. It's very unsettling. Life there is as messy and as complex and as, at times, downright unpleasant as it can be in our own experience. What kind of a moral exemplar is Abraham? And what kind of moral exemplar is Sarah? And dare we say, what about God? God's justice seems to be something that you have to argue over, not to assume. And God's love appears to be quite fickle. Suffering is not reserved for the wicked, and goodness of the soul seems to float in and out of the narratives. Why didn't Sarah and Abraham make better choices? Why did they do some things that were simply outrageously wrong? And Isaac? How could he have passively accepted what was done to his half-brother Ishmael in his name? The rabbis didn't turn a blind eye to all of this. Rabbi Shlomo Riskin points out that the rabbis struggled through elaborate midrash making to achieve a novelist's dream, to have everything work out well in the end. They noted that the place where God was revealed to Hagar to help her save herself and her son, in that same place, Rebekah later will meet Isaac. And this is kind of like a cleansing, redemptive moment. And Isaac was apparently involved in a bit of manipulation later in life to have Abraham marry Hagar, Midrash, marry Hagar, a belated compensation for her pain. And then in the text itself, we will find the assertion that at the time of Abraham's death, both Isaac and Ishmael came together as dutiful sons and brothers to bury their father. So, sort of a kind of redemption. Riskin takes this process of post facto redemption of a very messy set of circumstances one daring step further. For more than 1,200 years, and maybe for more than 2,000 years, relationships between the descendants of Isaac and the descendants of Ishmael, between Jews and Arabs, have, to say the least, not been able to discover in each other a reflection of the divine image. But Riskin states, the destiny of Israel is apparently a function of how the descendants of these two brothers learned to relate to each other in peace. Again, the destiny of Israel is apparently a function of how the descendants of these two brothers learn to relate to each other in peace. What if the embrace that Isaac and Esau shared at the time of their father's funeral can be reflected in the 21st century? What if that embrace isn't degraded by a constant rehearsal of all of the wrongs that one side has visited upon the other? What if that embrace will come to be regarded not just as a benefit, a gift to the other, but also as a benefit to both. What if the descendants of Ishmael and of Isaac come to see that the surest pathway to the fulfillment of their own individual destinies can only be found when the two sons of Abraham embrace a decision to live in peace. That moment, may it come soon, would be the ultimate cleansing, the ultimate redemption of the moral complexities of this week's Sedra. We wouldn't need all those extended midrashim then, because we would have before us the testimony of our own eyes and our own hearts. My friends, okay, here we are. We're ready for our Shemitah moment. Let's use the next 3 weeks as a time to refresh our souls and to think about the challenges of our text. Shabbat Shalom. See you soon.